Today we get to show you something really unusual and a first for us. This is a 2018 on a 68 registration Alpine A110, and this is a Premier Edition. Now, the Premier Edition was launched at the beginning of this car's production, so when Alpine brought this car back, as you probably already know, this car is a reimagined version of an extremely famous A110 from the 1960s, which Alpine built, which obviously was an extremely successful rally car. So an iconic car, in my opinion, beautifully reimagined and brought into the 21st century. The Premier Edition was limited to 1,955 cars, this being one of them, and they all sold out before the last car came off the production line. So these were heavily in demand at the time. Still, as it sits here today, 8,400 miles, an amazing example, finished in Blanc Solaire, which is a pearl white, and all the amazing bits that you get on a Premier specification. So the Premier specification essentially comes with everything. Now, we're going to talk about how interesting this car is as we go round, but we're going to run you through some of the amazing features and the really cool little design quirks of this car, because its natural competitor on the road is a Porsche Cayman or an M2 competition. Things like that are its natural rivals out in the world. But this car is so unique. To give you an example, this car weighs in at 1,100 kilos. A Porsche Cayman S weighs in at 1,400 kilos. That is a 300 kilo difference, and it is massively noticeable on the road when you drive these. They are short, the wheelbase is small, they're narrow, they're agile, they're on their toes. A Porsche is a fabulous car. This is the more interesting choice. Now, this particular car, come and have a look at the front end. We'll have a look at these amazing design features here. This twin headlight setup, again, from that iconic 1960s car. For me, it's a wonderful looking car, but the most important thing that you sort of gather when you stand in front of it is really how small this car is. It's really narrow. Standing here, it's really narrow. It's far smaller than anything modern that we've had that is a mid-engine sports car like this, and it's got a short wheelbase. And it's just, for me, a beautiful, beautiful car. Coming down the passenger side, the Premier Edition car comes with the 18-inch 5 twin-spoke wheels. And again, Alpine have really gone to town with the details on this car. I mean, look at this here. The Alpine logo there is machined into the face of the alloy wheels there, which I think is beautiful. It is sort of a diamond cut, but a matted diamond cut finish on the faces of these alloy wheels, and a lovely dark metallic sort of satin grey on the inside spokes. And then that beautiful electric blue, you know, Alpine traditional blue brake caliper there. And another small detail, which I don't know if you can pick up on, but again, if you look at these floating discs, the inserts of the hubs have actually got Alpine stamped on the inserts of the hubs as well. So a really amazing attention to detail has been sort of poured across this whole car. The lovely little A logo on the flank of the front wing there. And then coming down the passenger side, I'm about 6 foot, and again, I keep going back to proportions. Look how clever this is. In a modern, mid-engined sports car, look how low it sits next to me. It just gives you an idea of the pure driving experience that Alpine were after when they built this car. Now, I'll open the door. As you can see, keyless entry is there as well. You've got the keyless locking button there. Another nice feature of it being the Premier specification. And then going inside and looking at that interior, a really driver-focused interior for me. Those amazing Seibelt bucket seats, finished in leather and Alcantara, and that diamond stitching, and the pearl paint continuing to the inserts of these door cards as well. And obviously, the French never letting us forget that they built this car. Very, very proud of the name and this particular car. And then we come to the back of the car, this sort of camtail finish to the back of this car. Again, the details keep flowing at us, and I really love some of these. Again, you've got the French tricolor on the back of the C-pillar there as it comes down. A lovely air intake behind that rear quarter glass window. And then coming to this back window here, a beautifully sculpted, sort of curved piece of glass that brings the back together here, and a lovely little grille section, because obviously this car is mid-engined. It's a 4-cylinder, 2-litre, 248 brake horsepower engine, and it sits, unlike its predecessor, its 1960s predecessor, it sits in between the wheelbase, not over the back wheels. So it is a mid-engine car, much like a Porsche Cayman. The engine is sat there and you've got a big A, if you can see through the window, the big Alpine A, which covers over the engine cover. As I said, the cam tail really comes together nicely at the back here. You've got these modern style rear LED lights, black insert finishes, and obviously these lovely LED repeaters as well where your indicators are. That's very cool. Single exhaust down there and a big diffuser, which has some purposeful meaning to it as well, a really mean looking diffuser. And then because it is a mid-engined car, you do get a frunk and a trunk. So you get a small little loaded boot here, but it does go back into sort of the inserts of the rear wings of the car there. So you can get much more in there than you can imagine. Probably good two small weekend bags in there. And then obviously you've got the big boot at the front as well. So actually not as unpractical as you would imagine for such a small car. Coming around the driver's side, again, look at these lovely little scoops just to move airflow across the back of that tail of the car. A really lovely amount of detail in this car. Jumping into the driver's seat now. Again, this is one thing that I think is quite magical about this car as well. Whilst it is tiny in terms of its wheelbase for a modern car, the interior, the cabin, the seat, you don't squeeze into it. Again, as I say, I'm 6 foot. I get in very easily, very comfortable. The cabin is modern and spacious. It does not feel like a small car when you're inside it. You never feel cramped in here. Door cards are lovely. All of this lovely electric Alpine blue stitching across the door cards. They're fabulous. And then the exposed Focal stereo. Now, if you haven't heard of Focal make extremely high-end stereos. The beautiful speaker cone that you can see through there in the exposed grille, which I think is lovely. And then carbon fibre everywhere. Carbon fibre on the air vents, carbon fibre on the binnacle over the speedometer, carbon fibre across the main central bridge, and just basically across the car. So no expense really spared on the materials, the exotic materials poured into this car. Now I'm going to start it. We're going to run through some of the controls and some of the lovely infotainment system. A massive starter button sat here on this floating carbon bridge. And it actually has quite a lot of presence for a 2-litre turbocharged engine. It does genuinely make a nice little burble. Obviously we'll get to the steering wheel now, so I believe it's a manual rake adjustment, but you've got this amazing flat bottom steering wheel. Again, feels really sporty. Everything about the driving position, where you sit, everything about it feels right. Massive paddles which control a double clutch gearbox, so no manual option on this car, but no scrimping on the gearbox. It is a proper double clutch gearbox with some really sophisticated internals in there, so some really sharp shifting. And then you've got all your controls, which, as we know, some of this has been borrowed from Renault. So you've got some Renault Bluetooth and multifunction controls down here, your wiper functions on there, and your headlights, which are all automatic and LED on the left-hand side over here. You do have cruise control, which is this system, or I believe that is a speed limiter, but you do have that over here, which is very nice to have. And then moving across into the cabin, climate control down here. It is all one zone, but it's automatic climate control, which is lovely to have. Electric windows, you've got navigation, Bluetooth and DAB digital radio, so everything you would ever need in this car. And I just have to keep reminding you, the focus is the driving experience. The focus is what's going on out there, how this car feels, its visceral feels, which I think is the most important thing about this car. That is why you buy this car. Lovely controls on that bridge for reverse. As you can see, you've got your park sensors and everything. So you've got for reverse, drive, and back to neutral. And I beg your pardon, I will check. I'm not sure if the car does have park sensors, so I will check for that and confirm. And obviously your electronic handbrake release. You do have some USB slots down there, and quite nicely, if I move my legs, maybe the cameraman can see this. Select P, which is there. Maybe the cameraman can see this. Underneath there, you've got a build slot plaque to show that this car is number 1871 of the 1955 Premier editions to be made. So I'll just switch it off and jump out and give you a quick summary of what is, in my opinion, a really fascinating little car. A 2018 on a 68 Alpine A110 Premier Edition, fully loaded with everything you could have on one of these at the time. That was the point of the Premier Edition, with those lovely Say-Belt bucket seats. 8,400 miles, a full Alpine service history, and really, this is one for the driving purists. My name's Matthew. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching.